Welcome back to Railroads Online. I am Rever, and we are down by the oil refinery, which can only mean one thing. We are getting close to our goal of 200 barrels of oil. So I did make another trip for those of you sharp-eyed observers, and I know you're out there. You guys notice things that I never notice. But good job. We are facing the opposite direction, which kind of works out in a very slight way that we don't have to worry about stopping to flip the switch. It's a little easier to stop on the way out when we're going downhill. The next train has to come in this way so that we can unload the steel beams and or lumber. In this case, it kind of needs to be the steel beams because we have 109 crude oil and we have 0 steel pipes, and then we have 22 lumber. So if we tried to bring any lumber, it just wouldn't work, right? We would just waste the lumber. So we need to get not 100 steel pipes, but this works out great because I think we have, 108 or something like that steel pipes that we can grab. And when it comes to the lumber, we can use up that and drop off all 108. Otherwise, we would have an issue if we had no lumber here. So I think it's nice that we left that extra lumber when we did that. Now, when it comes to bring the lumber train down, I think we should probably do the same thing, right? So we'll kind of, in a sense, forget about we'll remember that we have 22, but we'll do the math and try to have some remainder there, so that same thing works out again. But other than that, I put a little bit of fire in here. I don't think we need too much. Yeah, let's throw a little bit more in. And we need to head back over to the smelter, or I'm sorry, the ironworks. I have a hard time with ironworks. Call it the iron mine all the time. We're going to have to flip some switches when we get to the all-way intersection. I guess some of you guys have had a chance to look at the map. Didn't get too many comments about it or suggestions, but it is pretty neat. And if nothing else, it's a neat program to use in your own thing. I definitely didn't expect the map program to be that. Oh, and I should say, this episode's going out on Christmas morning, so Merry Christmas to those of you that celebrate Christmas. I hope you have a happy day. Hope you got all the toys that you wanted. And back to our Winter Wonderland. I don't have a Winter Wonderland here. At least it's not forecast. Remember, I'm a day or two ahead recording this, so we don't seem like we're going to have a white Christmas here, which is pretty relatively rare if we do, to be quite honest. So what I'll do is if I go out the other way, like if I were to have looped around the other way, if we'd only taken one trip, I would stop here on this hill because it's a heck of a lot easier to stop on the hill than it is to go, get going again when we're coming back up the hill. So probably a little more break. This is steep. Having now driven 20-some trains around, it's kind of, I don't know if that's a ridiculous amount. It's a fair amount. Let's just put it that way. It's quite a few. I definitely could see myself redoing the oil refinery up there if we ever were to. That's a pretty abrupt stop here too, by the way. I thought I went and fixed that a little bit, or do I just want to fix that? Maybe I've fixed so many places, I would definitely make that less steep right there. All right. At the end of the day, this is truly a pretty short trip compared to the coal mine trip or some other ones. And then there's some improvements I would make over by the oil field as well. That could definitely use some work. And then one thing I thought about in between the episodes is that we have no the bulkhead cars. I guess they're what, the tier 3 flat cars, the ones that we need for the oil barrels. Now we do have them as part of our log train or our cordwood train, but I don't know that we want to go all the way up there and get the cordwood train as part of this. I'm trying to build this little system where we can go from one to the next without having to run around too much. Now, I don't think it would be the end of the world to go back up because we do have to take we need to put on the brakes. We need to go in here. We do need to take these lumber cars back up there at some point, right? So it's not like going to get that would be the end of the world. So it's sort of, but I don't also mind the idea of just having that down here where we can grab it. Now the other thing is remember we'll end up at the freight depot, so then we would have to come back down here anyway. So you could definitely. Now, did I flip everything I needed to? No, too busy talking. All right, so we flipped this one. Let's go all the way over here and get this done right. Doesn't matter which way we go in because we're just going to loop right around and then back into a parking space, and then we'll flip what we need to then. But yeah, these both need to be flipped, don't they? Then the other thing is I do need cordwood at this place. Now, that's probably not going to always happen, but I could certainly bring down an amount of cordwood into here. Now, would that be the normal trip? I don't know, because obviously needing cordwood is not a constant thing. It's not like it's part of the normal trip. But I could come down here with some cordwood and enough cars. I wouldn't have to fill all the cordwood cars. Hopefully, I didn't. And then we wouldn't need to buy another train. Now, the other thing, let's just give it a couple more wood. Keep that up at 400 so we can keep moving. The other thing, what was the other thing going to be? I forget. Yeah, now, again, keeping some cars down here could make some sense, or just heading back up there and getting the lumber, but all of that is second. I think the other thing is I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, which is fine to consider, but I don't think we really need to worry it too much. And yeah, as far as in thinking about it and going and picking up these extra 4 cars, so this was the second load that we had just delivered, it really doesn't make any sense to come back in here. All these switches are flipped. It's not that long of a trip. By the time you flip switches, you probably doubled your time to get there. So it was just as easy to run back and forth twice. So I'm definitely never coming back in here and doing some kind of a consist myself. Or a split consist, I guess you might say. So which way are we going to go? We're going to go around this way and come back. Then we'll park these up. Let's give it a little bit more. And we'll be safe. Yeah, so we have all the flatbed cars that we need. But do we have... Yeah, no, we don't have any of the bulkhead cars because this other long train... Yeah, so do we create another spot in here, right? This one is for these oil cars. We'd have to create another parking space down here. Oh, geez, we just went into the... Yeah, that's not going to work. I didn't even think of that. At least we didn't cause any damage, right? Didn't derail ourselves so far this episode. Last episode was kind of rough. Try this one more time. Sometimes that marker doesn't move, the other thing does. There we go. Let's pretend that never happened. Normally I'll flip the switches too to have it go through this one. That way when we come back with another load or when we go to get the steel pipes, like we could have flipped this and then run all the way down there and flip the other, because we're just going to have to do that again in a minute anyway. So we'll pick up the steel pipes and we'll get all of those loaded. I'm not sure how long that's going to take exactly. We're not too far into the video at all now, so we have plenty of time. Now the question will be, after that, that should give us all the steel pipes that we need up there, or at least I guess it will be 108 of them, so that'll be kind of perfect. Then we need to go up and get the lumber. So, yeah, that's where getting the lumber, you know, we could just head back up after we got the lumber, go take the logging train, go get the cordwood, bring that back down, and I think that could be better. I mean, the more I think about it, again, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but this, yeah, getting the steel over there, the steel pipes, is not going to be too. I think we got that all worked out. It's just getting those, getting the last thing sold, and so that could work out pretty well. Now, if we go to the freight depot, we don't really actually have I mean, we could get there, but we're going to have to do some backing up in order to get into the cordwood, because I don't actually have a way of just going into the cordwood. Now that I think about the tracks, if you were to look at the map of my thing, it's going to be difficult to get in there. I got to flip this flipper. Right, because the one side down here branches off to the right, and then it loops all the way around and then branches in. But at no point does it actually allow you to go the opposite direction. Like, the direction doesn't allow you to go from that cordwood entrance that we have on that main line. We still got plenty of heat for now. I don't need water or anything at this point. We could have probably thrown some more firewood in there, but I think we still have a little bit. We won't do it during the episode, of course. A lot of clicking. I do, as I've gotten into the big trains, I could see why some people would complain about all the firewood clicking. You know, I don't think it would break my heart if they automated some of these things, you know, at least a little bit. Like, filling this oil is a bit nerve-wracking when you consider how many hours you put into making each one of those crude oils, and then, you know, when you're sitting there looking at that little thing, and then you got to run up there real quick and shut it off. Like, that's certainly. It went fine though. The second load. Oops, wrong button. Went too far because I hit the wrong button. But it went very well. Like, there's no particular issues. Got everything unloaded, no problem. All right, so now let's check all these switches this time. Make sure we're going the right direction. Now this one's going to take us that way, and then this one needs to be flipped. And now we're in the right way. So when we talk about this too, one of the things to note, that it's sort of part of the 200 barrels of oil, but all of the steel, we're going to take all these steel pipes. We're going to be fine with it, but we're also going to have all those tools down there that need to actually just be sold off. Now, of course, we could sell them off one way or the other, but eventually we're going to get backed up with those tools. Let's do reverser. How many do I have there now? According to my chart, I have 94 tools, right? So, actually, that kind of is a bit of an issue because we have 100 steel pipes. Well, we only have 6 coal anyway, so we're going to get 106 steel pipes because we only have 6 more coal, right? Because we're stopped out at the 100. It just stopped producing. So we'll get 6 more as we take steel pipes off, and then we'll max out our tools, and we'll take all 100 steel pipes at that point, and that'll mean we have 100 tools left in there and no pipes. So at some point we're going to need more pipes. Now, we could take more tools over to the oil field, right? We only have 30 of them there, but eventually we're going to just fill up the oil field too, right? Because as it is, each time we're doing this, we are bringing over an extra 10 tools just with the count, so that we have, if we fill the tool cars and then we bring the same count. we end up with 10 more tools per trip than we do the steel pipes that we need. So back this guy up just so he's not on the turn. I think I feel better when I don't hit these cars on a turn. Like, I don't think it's that. We could just do it slow and be careful, but what's the fun in that, right? All right, hit it a little bit more on that straightaway. All right, so let's do a proper lockdown so that they stay together. And we can do these two cars because it's so easy. Let's bunch them together a bit. It's almost guaranteed to be a little while before we get back to this. Good enough, I think. Just set this one, should be fine. And at this point, I'll try to take that one out. And then we need to... So theoretically, we should have that link in there, right? And so now we need to go get these guys. So there's no link in this one, so hopefully that'll be right. Almost out of fire temperature, so I need to put some more wood in, which is the story of our lives with this game. Cutting trees and putting firewood into the firebox. I really feel for the people that have it hit or miss. Like, it is frustrating. For some reason with that Heisler, I don't have a lot of luck. I miss a fair percentage of the wood that goes in, so I can definitely understand if you're experiencing that, the frustration. I'm just glad I don't personally have it that much. Good enough for now. All right, we don't want to go back in here. And we do want to go back in there. All right, good. That should get us right. I was watching a show about trains not too long ago. One of the big issues that they used to have in this time, because they didn't have any sense of worker safety, was they expected these guys to make these links like practically on the fly. Do you know what I mean? Like the guys would be hanging off the rail cars to like drop the pins in and stuff like that. Guys were like constantly getting their hands crushed. Or not constantly, but it was a big issue, let's put it that way. Yeah, see how we're... Probably could make this one a little bit longer, huh? So we don't have to stop right on that turn like this. Yeah, let's see. We didn't really tighten this one down properly, did we? Let's see if we get all of our cars. Oh, good. Look, our link worked that way, as expected. We did have that one locked anyway. Let's get off the train. Yeah, it seems like maybe we should make this a little longer because we were real close. And I think if we don't make it longer, at some point it'll be an issue. I don't have to do it right now. Oh, yeah, look, we never set that last car, so... Well, hopefully it's all good to go. Did we set this one? I looked, but I didn't look. All right, let's see if they all come with us. It is a flat thing, so it shouldn't particularly be a problem. I think the problem though is even if it's flat and you back your cars up and then you like slam on the brakes, they all like extend further apart, right? Like, because they're, you know what I mean? Like they extend out, and that can cause part of the problem. So even though you're on the level and they're not moving, it feels like they got, come on F, it feels like they get extended out. So let's just see what happens here. Hopefully we bring them all with us. And I'm sure they're working on these things too. So they do seem to be making improvements. And I think one of the things I'm noticing is that this guy is bouncing around like side to side a lot more. It almost feels like I'm driving the Betsy, and I'm wondering if they don't. They probably have a lot of give or take kind of things that they have to work out. Like if they make it too tight, then it probably causes one problem. Like too, if the width of this and the physics is just so tight that it probably causes one set of problems. But if you make it loose, then the thing probably like jars around side to side too much. Now, the jarring around side to side might be a lot more forgiving, but it looks like heck, if nothing else. Didn't really pay enough attention. Do we have all the cars? I sure hope so, because we're committed. Maybe when we're flipping switches, we can go in and check. It seems like about the right length. So we have now 12 cars, which should be able to hold 108 of these pipes, which is, like I said, we can only get 106. We've got to pull up to this one. This is the flipper right here. Almost there. Go a little further for the sake of bad judgment. Oh, you know what? And I was going to flip some of these switches too. Oh no, you know what? We're going right back out the same way. Yeah, this is definitely a good way to do this. So even though we're leaving those oil cars here, it saves us some more flipping on the way back out, right? Because we should be all flipped to go take these right up there. This has got to go this way, and that'll take us onto the right track. Now the problem is, I'm going to back in, but I can't go too far because I will hit that other switch that goes from the bypass track to the one where we pick stuff up. On the other side, one we just flipped, its counterpart, so to speak. But I'll handle that. I'm going to put a little break in the video, and we'll come back after we fill these up. So let's see if we have enough markers in the right spot to be able to stop. In the right location. I think these are lined up pretty much the same. I don't think there's an issue with them being like off by half a car, which I'm not sure why they do that to us. Now in this case, there's no particular reason, because I don't think you'd never really would want to take tools and steel pipes. Well, I would take tools and steel pipes to the oil field, huh? So you would want to load up both, but we'll see. See what we have here as far as marks go. See that mark. See, part of the problem I'm going to run into too is these marks are getting so far. I think they're literally wrapping around on themselves. Like when you try to do those super long trains, that's where I really need markers. And markers are actually kind of to the point where when I start seeing markers is when I'll really want to come back. Like that's how much it. I think smoke is right in my way. I'm going to stop here and see what that looks like. I obviously don't have any marks here. They might be hard to see, and I fell in the firebox again. All right, there we go. All right, now we're free. Yeah, see, my marks ended here with whatever train. I think I might have gone a little bit too far, but I did line up pretty nice by chance on that, so we might be able to do it anyway, right? Oh no, look at that. It's almost like pro skills there. Well, there we go. So I'm going to come up here. I'll just show you guys what I do. It's not that much of a mystery. But if these cars are off a little bit like that, so you just kind of, you can see how, like, I'm not that exact anyway. They're kind of all over the place, aren't they? You know, there's a propensity that they're pretty close to this wheel right here. So we'll just go add that many more. And then on this one, it's like the back half of this wheel, if you can be that exact, which I really don't think you can, right, as opposed to the front half of the wheel. That should be about right. You know. So there we go. So let me finish loading this guy up, and then we'll get ready to take the trip. But going pretty well today. Certainly not as much of a error-filled mess like the last episode was. Maybe it's because it's Christmas, right? All right. Well, let me load these up, and I'll see you guys once we have all that done. We have no more steel pipes left. We have 100 tools over there. We have no coal, and we have like 18 pieces of iron. So we have maxed out what we can take. But like I said, now our problem is we have 100 tools kind of clogging up the works if we needed more steel pipes. So at some point here, we'll have to go and sell off those tools. But that's not for right now. So let me throw a little bit more wood in here just for the sake of it. I don't think I had overfilled it. Nope, we're only up to 270, 38. So all of the switches I think should be right. I didn't really double check, but let's take the reverser off. You would think something called the reverser when it was on would be going backwards, right? So like in other words, it's the reverser. It reverses things. Like when it was negative 100, you would kind of expect it to go forward. That makes sense? If you wanted to reverse something, turn it on, like, you know. I wonder why they called it the reverser. I guess because they didn't have the, you know, like they didn't use the term gearbox, I guess, or, and really it's a transmission when you think about it. There may be some particular reason they called it that. Let you go in reverse, maybe because at some point they didn't have that and they could only go forward, and then they invented this thing that let you go in reverse. Not sure. Doesn't matter. Pretty long train. So we got, what, 106 steel pipes instead of the 108. But you can see those two aren't completely full. I don't know if I want to be doing 28 around that particular turn. Let's see how it does. These are some pretty tight turns. So the negative side of this thing being like it is that the turns are relatively tight. I haven't had any huge issues yet. So we made it around it. Good. Give it to it. came up that a lot faster than I expected to. I was trying to do that, but we're slowing down for that turn. That was making me a little bit nervous there. So yeah, I'm not sure what the best way to handle this is. But having learned the lesson, and even when I was loading up, because I loaded back to front, right? And I could definitely see that these front cars were starting to struggle. So I definitely want to unload this thing back to front. I guess the best thing to do is just back in there, do what we do, and then put the cars over here as we do it. That way we don't have any empty cars with us. The other alternative would be to, but we'd almost need like a third lane if we wanted to really, like, because we could put some cars in here, right? If you wanted to keep all these attached to start. All right, so if I come up here and hit the brake, right, do we leave the cars on there, or do we just start backing them up? Like, I could leave the cars here, take 3 off, but then the problem is I have to have some place to put the other 3, right? Yeah, so I think I'm going to just leave them on there and start putting the empty ones in here, and then we'll pick up all the empty ones. Let me know if you guys have a comment that you do it a different way that seems better to you. Now, the negative part about this is I've got to take all these cars on this loop, but we should be switched right anyway, so we'll see how this loop does. I'm really starting to think that, you know, I should make these loops bigger and try to do the turns over to here different. You know, like, so this loop ends up to be a bigger, not so tight loop. But we'll see. Like I said, I think as long as we unload from the back to the front, we'll be okay. Let's do one together, and then we'll see how that goes. Shouldn't be too bad. It's only now, right? Now we're up to doing 12 cars without batting an eye, right? Getting to become real railroaders. I'm not sure how this area would hold up to 26 cars, though, if I'm honest. Let's give it a little bit of break just to get things tightening up without slamming into each other. And see, it's a very nice smooth turn, so that does count for something. And then the fact that it does loop around tight does mean you're running around a little bit less, right? All right, so now we have to get this to go to the steel pipes, which means let's flip this guy. That one's going to the wood, so we're going to flip this guy, and then we should be good. See how those trains react to backing up. Cars. It's called them trains, but they're cars. Notice I do that the one thing that you do if you ever record yourself, you can definitely notice the strange things that you say that you don't even think about that you say. You know, like the little word mistakes that you make, and you hear other people do it, and you think, oh, that person doesn't know how to talk. Go ahead and record yourself for 50 hours of talking about trains. And all of a sudden you'll understand, right? I think in the past I used the shadow so we could see the shadow of our train getting close, and then we could slow down. I'm pretty sure we can get 3 cars unloaded if we go up against our stopper pretty close to it. Yeah, we should be getting there. I don't want to slam into it too hard. This is sort of a yep, there it is. Just hit F. It's been a little while since we unloaded here, but we should be actually making some oil when we do. Yeah, it's now that should do it. As long as the stairs seem to count as a general statement, let's confirm that so you guys don't have to go through the pain of losing yours. Now, see that? So we we bumped right up, and even though that's borderline, not like halfway is usually my rule. We're either on the halfway or the stairs count. One of the two. And then watch out for getting stuck in those pipes. So now we should actually have some oil, not much. Or at least, be making, yep, there we go. So we're building up a few barrels, and then we'll run out of lumber, but that's fine. So now what I'm going to do is just peel off these 3 cars. It's just going to be a little bit laborious. But the good news is now that we have 12, that's a multiple of 3. So I should not have a, sort of orphaned cars where we only have 1 or 2 that were unloaded, which should be max efficiency or something like that. All right, well, let me get this completely unloaded now. And we will, I'll be back when we're ready to go. We are on our way. I came over here just to make a count, kind of double check and confirm my mathematics, or my arithmetic anyway. Not much for mathematics, adding and subtracting, but we got 22 barrels and 22, so we got 44 barrels, which makes sense because we had 22 lumber, right? So we've got 0 lumber now. Go over there and take a look and start putting this train back together fully. All right, so we used up some of our oil. So we only have 87 crude and 84 steel pipes, which is fine. That'll get us going. And now we need to bring down the lumber. So let's go at least go put this guy away. I think that'll probably be close to the end of an episode. We'll see how it works out. But yeah, I definitely am thinking that the right way to go, the last step is going to be getting those oil barrels. So I think the thing to do now is to take our lumber train back up, uncouple whatever cars that we need to uncouple, and then come back down here with the lumber, get all of that unloaded. I think that's a little bit more of a pain because we can only do 2 at a time. So this, we could at least do 3 at a time, but whatever. It is what it is. Some people have made comments that, it's unrealistically slow, and I would say 2 things. One, we're used to rail and thinking of rail nowadays, which is probably significantly different and more organized than it was. I mean, you're probably literally talking people that could afford a locomotive, probably weren't even getting one this fancy 9 times out of 10, and they were just so happy they weren't unloading everything with a horse and cart, So I can only imagine that things weren't always set up particularly to offload super quick and all that kind of thing. The other thing is, even to this day, I don't think that that's necessarily... I think that what you have in a lot of situations is you have a big train that comes along, drops off whatever supplies, whatever rail cars to an industry, and then they... Oops, we can take the brake off. We got to get reverse. Oh, we don't have any heat. Let's get more heat. I do think of these things, and then I forget. I get so excited about starting up again, right? There we go. So at least we'll be able to cook this up. Hopefully we'll get heat before I have to pause the video. All right, ready. Go. It costs quite... one of the things I don't think they've done overly well is dampen down the fire. Like, in other words, it seems like we always use the same amount of fuel no matter what, and yet you're using a tiny fraction of the steam, right? Like, the amount of steam that you'd need at certain points is going to be pretty massive, and you're definitely going to be burning the heck out of your firewood at that point. All right, let's try to let that come to a complete stop slowly on its own without jamming on the brakes. So, it really... Now, maybe these trains were that inefficient, but I find that a little bit hard to believe because, it's pretty simple to figure out. It's not... by the time they got to the stage they were building a Cook Mogul, they'd have worked that out, right? Like, I could understand if the Betsy just constantly uses the same amount of wood. Now, I need to worry about this flipper, don't I? And then once we flip it, we need to flip it back the other way on our way out of here. We need to go back and park these cars and then pick up our lumber cars. I'm not sure how much time we have. Oh, I know how much time we have. That's not what I want to do. Do this one over here. All right, so I'm going to have to flip this flipper, and then I'm going to want to stop on that hill and flip it back the other way so that when we come back in with that long train. Another thing that I would say is when you start getting into the long trains, this really isn't that great an idea. You need so much wood that you really need to work this out where you can drop off the cordwood and then have the firewood close to where you're filling it up. Even if that means like making some little chute, just being able to pull your train in there. Now, the other thing is it's probably, you don't really need nearly as many as I was starting to place either. So if you haven't figured that out for yourself yet, but if you haven't gotten this far in your own game, yeah, once you start using the bigger trains, you don't need nearly as many firewood places. That's for sure. So I think I may end up deleting that, and we'll see. I kind of want to see. I like the idea of doing 100 at a time of everything, or at least in that ballpark where it's, because we're kind of limited by the beams. You know, you can only carry so many beams around with you. At least we can only carry so many beams. Let's give this a little more juice. I don't think we need it particularly, but I'm tired of running out. All right, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Let's go. 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 Yep. We're just in a cycle. Come on. Yeah, look, it can't even get out under its own weight. There you go. Like I said, it becomes like a slinky where it's, I don't know if you ever, do they even have that toy anymore, or am I just showing my age? I would think slinky would still be around at some form. Used to be able to walk down steps with the slinky. They made it sound like so wonderful. That was back in the days before the internet, when like you'd watch Saturday morning cartoons, because that's the only, there was no Cartoon Networks, right? The only time we really had cartoons was Saturday morning, a little bit on Sunday morning, but not so much. And then some little bit on the afternoon, like after school time. So like you'd say like 3 or 4, you'd have some cartoons. But at a certain point, it all turned back to the news or just more adult programming, because you only had like 5 channels total. They were all sort of, 3 of them were the big 3 networks, so they were all sort of competing with each other. They used to advertise around Christmas time all these toys. Oh, I guess they always advertise toys. Toys and cereal. It's the big things I remember. They were Lucky Charms and Frosted Flakes. You know, they all had their little mascots, their little cartoon characters. Convince you to eat pure sugar for your morning. Pure carbohydrates anyway, right? No wonder kids couldn't concentrate in school half the time. Slow down for this turn a little bit. Yeah, see, it's these are just some really sharp turns here. I think if I had to do it over, I'd come out a little bit further, try to do this a little bit differently. I mean, it's working fine, so I'm not complaining. We did flip our flipper, so that's good. Now we're going to try to stop when we get out there. So that's the other thing, is I think I would try to make this a little bit of a friendlier stopping. Maybe we could go straight and then... All right, 'cause stopping on this is not... It's not particularly easy. It's not physically difficult, but it's kind of hard to judge. Either that or you got to go really slow. See how we're just going faster and faster? I don't even know. Can we? Yeah, it's slowing down, I think. Not much, but... Yeah, I can't. We don't have any shadows to judge. Or the shadow's in the wrong direction to judge if we're past that or not. I think we're well past it right now. Let's go see. See if my judgment's getting any better. In life, we do use binocular vision. And I think that video games kind of mess with that a little bit, right? Because you're seeing a flat screen. I guess it's similar, but like, in other words, if you need glasses, you could see your computer screen in the distance fine. Like I need glasses to see in the distance, but I can take my glasses off and see the distance, the computer screen fine, because you're not really seeing in the distance. It fools your brain enough, so it works. But there we go. All right. So anyway, enough of that. So we have flipped that the right way, so when we come back, we won't have to stop on this hill with our fully loaded lumber train. Now, how many cars are we going to need? So we want to fill it back up and then leave. I like the fact that we left some extra, but then we're going to use it up too, right? So we have basically 84 steel pipes. So we could put in 84 lumber, which would be, let's see, 12 would be 72, right? And then you could have 78 and then 84. So that would be 14 cars, which I probably could have done that differently. But then we want to leave some extra again, right? So we're going to do, if we did 4 more cars, yeah, I think that would work out, right? The worst case scenario, we ended up with a couple extra lumber on the car, which we could always throw on the ground. Not that we want to do that, but so we would end up with 18 cars that we want to bring back with us. I guess we should put on some steam. They're talking. So we would bring 18 lumber cars with us. This time we should be good to go to flip right around too. Meaning go in there, like we're not going to end up in the rail yard, the rail siding. There's some tight turns there, but it does them nicely. As long as you don't do anything crazy, you'll probably be okay with tight turns like that. Yeah, it's a shame we don't have... We could pick up more and leave them stored over here. That would be another thing you could do, potentially. Then again, once you load them, do you really need to leave them unloaded? Or leave them loaded on there? Because you never know. I guess eventually you could work it out. Like the tools, we could store up some tools and just leave them over there. But eventually you just run out anyway. It's sort of we're producing more tools than we need kind of thing. And I don't know that there'd be any particular advantage of leaving steel pipes stored. And I think we're definitely going to do let's take the old Porter and see if we can't. Well, let's see. I guess we should do the math on whether we use the Porter. We can worry about that next episode, right? Because we're not going to get to it anyway. Or do we buy a new train? I'm kind of tempted to maybe even see, can we afford a Eureka with the number of cars that we need? So how many oil barrels? We get 42 oil barrels per car. So it's not like we really need that many cars. We would need, 3 cars to get... Or no, I'm sorry. We would need 5 cars to get the 200 barrels going. So we don't even need all the cars that the little black Porter would carry. So it does seem pretty reasonable to actually take that to go get this oil. It's relatively flat or downhill out of the oil refinery. So it's not like the Porter... Even if we were trying to be... I know the Porters are both kind of OP. So I'm a little bit sensitive to taking advantage of that OP-ness. But I don't really see it being an abuse of that overpoweredness, right? To take 5 cars with the oil. Now, I don't know how much they weigh. I have to stop up here for the flipping. We're going to want this one flipped the other way. We are going to want this one going this way, right? Yeah, because we put this one back. Yeah, so it's good to go, right? So yeah, it doesn't really matter which one it goes into, but it's already, why make it harder by changing it? It's already all set up for us after we get out of here and back in here. Our water level's good, so we don't need that. Temperature's good for the moment. I definitely noticed that the spring action seems to be worse when you back into a situation and then you go forward after that. So there's something like there we had no problem. I put it on 30. I think that was a very reasonable pull forward. But like here, when we come up to here and then pull forward or pull backwards, like, and we're shifting directions, it seems like that's when it has a harder time. It's like it doesn't zero out all the stresses in there. Yeah, this is when we got to make another judgment. It would be nice to also be able to put trees up, if nothing else, for the shadows. I'm not sure that they would help that much this time, but I think we're in the ballpark. Oh, fell in the firebox again. Yeah, the problem is the rails. A couple problems. One, I'm too anxious to get out of there, so I don't take a minute to orient myself. I just start moving, and then when I do that, I tend to fall in the firebox because you're actually sitting right next to the firebox on that train. You're not behind it when it releases the F. There we go. I need to learn to like stop, orient myself, pivot and face the right direction and then run. But I usually tend to just start running and pivoting and end up in the firebox. That's not so good. All right, for the sake of the length of the video, because I think we'll run out of time, I would like to take that trip up there with you guys, and then that way I'll get loaded and we'll be doing our last couple trips in the next episode. Let me back in here and I will get this other car, get these things switched, ready to go. I think you guys have seen enough of the yard work probably in the last few days, and then I'll see you when we get back. In the last episode, I definitely underestimated the time it takes to do this yard work, and just even switching these two. Now, I did go down and extend that. If you notice, we're pulled in a lot further, so I extended that rail like I was talking about so we can get in there. This guy's all the way kind of maxed out, but just running up and down, back and forth, setting this guy, because oops, I got a piece of firewood in my pocket, in my hand. In any event, so it just takes a while running back and forth and doing all of that. So, in any event, here we are, and I also flipped the flipper, and well, not the flipper, but we should be good to go, heading straight back out to the lumber mill. Now, when we get up there, I definitely want to pull in the certain way so that we can lose some of these cars. We should have 26 cars with us, as long as they all come along, right? It's kind of so hard to see. Yeah, and I would say I can understand human nature enough to say I can see why people would want to do even longer trains than this. But at the same time, I think they're all coming with us, from what I can see. This is really, 26 cars is a good amount for the game and the limitations that you're going to run into. Right? It just, I'm not saying you shouldn't try for more and that you can't do more, but you start literally not being able to see. I think that probably is where it starts becoming more of a two-person. If you had a helper that could help switch things and keep an eye on the back of the train. That's why I'm hoping that maybe they can give the caboose some functionality for single players where you could switch cameras and then look around from the caboose. Even if you couldn't get out of the caboose, even if you could just sort of, not, I'm not sure it would be a big deal if it was a teleporting thing, but, You know, if I could just see what's going on a little bit better, and then still control things would be nice. Yeah, I think we got these all switched the right way. All right, well, let me make some noise, and we'll enjoy a trip without me talking the whole way up there. The snow definitely does look nice, doesn't it? Now, some people are complaining about it doesn't help the track laying. I'm not sure. A little tiny bit I've done. I really haven't noticed any significant issue. I haven't done a whole lot of groundwork. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they think that. I'm sure there might be some things I haven't run into yet. So I can start cleaning up some of that stuff. I do like to leave some of it because I can see where things were, but that's sort of, yeah, not sure why that's there. In other words, some of it's a little bit nostalgic to leave it there. Now, at some point I was up here buying stuff. I forget which way these switches are even switched, but I think I can see that one's the wrong way. See what I mean about the white does make that harder to see, the white and red. Yeah, so that's definitely wrong, which makes sense because we were coming back from the smelter the last time, right? We still have all the cars. A lot of them. Not sure if that's all of them or not, but so we want to come in. I'm not sure. I was talking about it mattering. I'm not sure. Do we have this one the right way? No, this one's the wrong way too. So what we're going to do is pull up here and then back into here and get rid of 8 cars, right? And then 18 times 6 is going to be, what's that, 48 plus 60, 108. All right, that one we don't want to switch. This one, I'm not sure if it matters, but I think I'd rather be on the more gradual turn. I don't want to be on that real tight turn doing this maneuver. And then we'll be able to back in. We'll flip this one once we get backed in there. But yeah, so all of this rail siding here was fun. We don't have a train in it, you know, like, so it really, and I just don't have any real intention to use it, to be honest, either. Just because it's, if you see the way everything worked out, it's just not that convenient. I mean, I think it would be fine for multiplayer, and if we really start expanding our trains, but you know, you really only need one lumber train that's a little bit flexible, and the Cook is an excellent candidate for that. I mean, the fact we're pulling 26 cars and we can kind of do whatever consist we need to whatever place we need to go, you know, really makes it so that the sawmill's not as pivotal as even the smelter, or especially that the ironworks down there. Like the smelter, there's a little bit of switcherooing that we're doing, so that's why we're storing the train for the coal there. But it just turns out that we really are not storing anything here, so this was just sort of a whole extra thing. So even though a lot of your activity started, and I thought we were going to do a lot more here as it dragged on, the only real siding we needed up here was this one to get rid of some of these cars, so we're not always carrying 26 around with us. But it's been fun. It's been a fun learning experience. You know, I'm looking forward to, if they add more content, what that means for us. Let's slow down a little bit here. Be gentle. You know, definitely learn some lessons about how to do things compared to when I first started. And really, I would have to say, don't assume you know everything until you start. Oh, do we have a beams problem? No, we should be okay. I didn't even look at the amount of lumber we have here, but I think we have 100 lumber and 49 beams, so that's good. So we should be in great shape to get everything we need. Matter of fact, this helps get rid of some lumber that we'd otherwise have to sell off. I mean, when dealing with this super long train, you're better off taking this somewhat less sloped thing if you're going to be stopping and backing, or somewhat left sharp turn. It is sloped up. I don't think that matters overly much. Yeah, I think we have to go past that one right there. Okay. It's going to get so far away I can't even hardly see it. Yeah, I really almost can't. I mean, I'm lining up that pine tree in the distance right there to see when we're past that. And that's part of the problem, what I'm talking about with. This is where you could, you know, I would use the caboose if it had a camera in it, right? Especially when you start getting to these, like that tree right there, we got to get past. Yeah, I think we're there. All right, let's put on the brakes gently. And then a little bit more sharp. We should be kind of okay because we're coming up this hill. You just don't want to do it too drastic. Let's see, did we get past there? Yes. See what I mean about the running? And how long did that take? Let's time it. I have my little timer up here. So That tells me how long the episode is. So we do have to wrap it up here. Pretty much we're out of time, but let's back in here first and just see how this goes. So just to run the length of the train, and we're not there yet. Approach is probably about 30 seconds. You know what I mean? So like if you're trying to do it like now, so we just ran the length to throw that switch, and then now we're going to have to, let's see, how's our fire doing? Well, I'm going to give it a little more so I don't feel like running out. We can always... You know, when you combine that, now we're going to have to go and back up, right? And then we're going to have to go and disconnect the thing and set the brakes. And yeah, see what I mean about it being harder to get started when you even, and we're on a hill, downhill, and it still wouldn't start. You should be able to just take off your brakes right there. You shouldn't have to be putting it on 80 regulator. Now, I have no idea how many 8 cars is, but we're just going to make a good guess. I'll just go, oh, geez. See, now we're going downhill. We're going too fast. Let's give it a little bit of slight amount of braking just so we're... We'll just go in there plenty far enough that we know we can take off 8 cars. Now I think we'll wrap it up right there because, like I said, we are running out of time for our hour deadline or guideline. Yeah, so if we just count wheel sets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we're there. Let's stop. So we can go further. So now what I need to do to properly lock this guy up, right, is go set those brakes, bunch them, and then I have to run back up again, bunch them together, right? This is not a complaint. This is just a matter of the time it's starting to take to deal with the train becomes significant. Because we're still not, after this run back, and it's back and forth, so it takes a minute to run the back and forth. So you can just see how it starts eating up a lot of your time. Compared to when you have 6 cars. And I've taken to setting 2 brakes. I just find that it's easier to, it slows the train down more when we hit it. Right, now are these all bunched up pretty good? Yeah, they actually are, aren't they? I should just, you know, we don't need to bunch those up. They stayed pretty good. All right, so let's count. We're on the 3rd one. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Set these 2. That's good. I'm glad they kind of bunched up like that. That's all the better. So let's count again. 1, 2. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Well, there we go. So I'm going to pull forward. I'll get this guy all loaded up. We'll be ready to bring 18 cars down there, which should be kind of interesting. That's a lot of cars to deal with unloading, backing up 2 cars at a time. So I'm sure that'll be quite time consuming, but it'll also mean Texas tea, pure black gold, right? We'll have some oil to go next time. So once again, guys, Merry Christmas for those of you who celebrate that, and Happy New Year, but I'm sure we'll see each other before then, or at least I hope we would. Enjoy our winter wonderland here, and I hope you have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.